What's up everybody, it's Sean here and I'm really excited to give you guys my review of the Concepts collaboration with New Balance on the 998 in the C-Note 10th anniversary colorway. Today's video is sponsored by the good people from Move Insoles. Move Insoles is one of the leaders in the performance insole space, and their products are designed and tested by pro athletes like Chris Paul and Damian Lillard of the NBA. And while they're more known for their performance insoles that are worn, for example, on the basketball court, they also sell this insole right here, which is their all-day insole, and this is meant to be worn for everyday casual use sneakers. So this, in my humble opinion, is one of the most technologically advanced insoles that I've ever worn. First of all, this insole is primarily constructed out of the recharge foam technology, which is what gives this insole that cushioning feeling and the impact protection. And beyond that, you can see this black colored plate on the back half. This essentially is a large TPU shank plate, which really helps to cradle and support your foot. So if there's one thing I really love about these Move insoles is that you really feel supported, especially underneath the arches of your foot. And other than that, there's other things, for example, like this active heel technology, where it gives you added impact protection in the area that you need it most. So as you can see, there's so much going on with these insoles, but don't trust my word. Try a pair for yourself. I've linked their social media, their website, all that good stuff down below. So check them out, let me know what you guys think, and tell them that I sent you. So this right here, in my opinion at least, is the very surprising re-release or retro of the Concepts New Balance 998 C-Note. Before we talk about this shoe though, let me put things into perspective for you guys, coming from someone that's been buying New Balance for a while now. So the original C-Note dropped back in 2013, and the landscape as far as New Balance goes, it was very different compared to how it is today. First of all, New Balance wasn't nearly as mainstream and as popular as it is right now. So back then, there was no buzz about the New Balance 550, 650, 2002R, and even the 990 series. I don't know if you guys share the same opinion as me, but the 990 series, from what I remember, it was still heavily considered as much more of a dad shoe, and at the time, dad shoes weren't really in as they are now. So what was popular back in the day was 997, for example, and this one right here, which is the New Balance 998. And when it comes to collaborations around that time, I gotta say Concepts, they had the Midas touch. Around that time period, they had so many really incredible collaborations. And even within a very short period of time, a couple months after this one was released, if I remember correctly, they also released a 998 Mint colorway, both of which were inspired by US currency. So to many New Balance purists out there, this 998 C-Note, it's definitely considered one of the most iconic and one of the best New Balance collaborations ever made. So when news leaked that the C-Notes were coming back to celebrate its 10-year anniversary, a lot of people were pretty shocked in a good way. So these released earlier this month, first with VIP access on Concept's website, and then they were released also on New Balance's website on October 5th. So these retailed for a price of $220 US or $295 here in Canada. And the official colorway for this shoe is Sea Salt and Covert Green, and the style code is U998CN. And the backstory behind this colorway is that it was inspired by the brand new at the time US $100 bill, which launched I believe back in the same year, 2013. So first things first, here's a quick look at the box. So this comes in a custom box for this release, obviously inspired by money. So the top lid looks like a US bill. We have New Balance branding on the very center and Concepts branding found on the sides of the box as well. And then on the side of the lid, we have 10th anniversary and Concepts branding on the bottom lid. And this shoe, just like the originals from 2013, they're both made in the USA. So diving into the details of this shoe, as we start things off on the toe box, this is covered in this white colored mesh and it's done in this herringbone style weave. Covering the U-throw of the shoe, we have this reflective silver 3M layer, and then surrounding the front toe cap, we have this dark cream colored pig suede. This same suede covers the entire mid panel of the shoe, and then the top three eyelets are covered in this gray colored TPU. And then stitched on top of the mid panel, we have the New Balance N logo, which is done in white leather with this olive colored backing underneath. Moving downwards, we have this TPU layer, which is done in more of a brownish shade compared to the OGs, which I'll talk about later. And then above this, we have this dark gray colored mesh. And then surrounding the bottom of the heel, we have more of that olive brown colored suede. And then stamped onto the lateral side, we have Concepts branding, which is something that the originals did not have. And then above this, we have another layer of reflective silver 3M. And then on the top of the heel, we have this hit of suede with New Balance branding embroidered across in gray. On the bottom of the heel, we have a gray colored TPU heel clip, which gives you added structure and support for the back end of the sneaker. And as far as the laces go, so these come with 3 different lace options. The standard default lace is a flat style white lace. Underneath this, the bottom half of the tongue is covered in the same mesh that we saw on the toe box, and then on the top half of the tongue, this is covered in that beige or cream colored suede, and we have 998 New Balance made in USA embroidered across on the top. The back of the tongue and the interior of the shoe, this is covered in this gray colored liner, and the inner collar of the shoe is pretty minimally padded. And then as far as the insoles go, so these come with your typical foam lined insole, and we have New Balance branding pressed onto the heel in dark gray. So the upper of the 998 sits atop this full-length absorbed foam midsole, which is painted primarily in this yellow tone. We have absorbed branding found on the lateral heel, and then the forefoot area of the midsole, this is painted in white, and we have this blue colored strip, which is a nod to the $100 bill. And then on the medial side, it's painted in gray towards the back half of the midsole. And then turning the shoe over to the bottom, so this outsole is primarily constructed out of a black colored rubber. We have New Balance 998 branding on the heel, and the gray portion that you see here, this is just exposed foam that's connected to the midsole. So that breaks down the look and the construction of this pair. And in terms of sizing, that's probably the million-dollar question. So my foot measures as a true size 10, slightly on the wider side. And as far as the OG 998s go, I usually wore a 9.5, which is a half size down. So that I'd say is my typical made in USA size. I wear a 9.5 in models like the 992, 993, the 990 V3, V4, V5, and V6. But I feel like since New Balance has brought back the 998, it's been retooled a little bit and it fits a little bit different. It's a little bit more snug around this forefoot area right here where the ball of your foot is. And in a way, if I had to compare it to anything, I'd say it fits similarly to, for example, a 991 or a 990 V2. So I know for the Kith 998s, those ones I was able to go down a half size and it fit me perfectly fine. But for these guys, I picked these up in a size 10, which is true to size, and they fit me pretty well. I feel like if you have more of a narrow foot and you'd like an exact one-to-one fit, then you could go a half size down, but for probably like 90 or 95% of the people out there, sticking true to size is probably the better bet. So again, going true to size in these, it left me about a finger's width space between the top of the shoe and the top of my toe. And the width of this toe box area right here, I could still feel that it was more on the narrow side, but it wasn't snug enough that it was causing me any pain or discomfort. Next up, in terms of the comfort, so the comfort of the 998 is really nothing special. Even though it utilizes absorbed foam on this midsole, it really doesn't feel that comfortable. It gives you some degree of squishiness and softness underfoot. It's not a totally firm and totally dead feeling sneaker, but if I'm comparing this to, for example, the 990 series or a 2002R, a 9060, any of those models, these are definitely nowhere near as close when it comes to comfort. So if you're okay with a shoe that's a little bit more on the firmer side and doesn't have as much squishiness to it, then you'll be fine with these as an everyday use sneaker. But if you're expecting that they're going to be as comfortable as a 990, for example, then you might be a little bit disappointed. Finally, in terms of the quality and the craftsmanship on this pair, so first off, the material quality, I thought it was great. This is a made in USA sneaker and it lived up to its reputation. The material quality was really solid. All the suedes had this very soft, buttery feel to it. And in terms of the build and the craftsmanship, my pair was honestly pretty free of any flaws. I know sometimes New Balance has kind of slipped in terms of their quality control, but my pair I thought was pretty pristine. The stitch job was really good, no visible glue stains, and the paint job was good as well. So kudos to the New Balance factory that put this together. I came away feeling pretty impressed. So with all that out of the way now, let's toss these on feet. I'll lace them up for you and I'll show you guys how these look. For Concepts and New Balance to bring back one of the most iconic and one of the most revered New Balance collaborations of all time, this was really surprising, but I'm not mad about that at all. 10 years in, a lot of people's C-Notes pairs from the OG release, they probably are pretty beat up, or they could even be close to crumbling not too many years from now. So to give OG New Balance heads and newer fans of the brand a chance to own this pair once again, that was a great move in my opinion. And the crazy thing is that because this is a 998, these were actually sitting on Concept's website and the New Balance website as well for a while. And I think even right now, if you log into the New Balance Canada website, some of the smaller sizes are still sitting. So that's absolutely unheard of, and it's honestly ridiculous because this is a grail to many New Balance OG heads. And the fact that it's sitting is really, I just have no words to describe it. But that's honestly a great thing because a lot of my personal friends that were collecting New Balance back in the day, they were kind of concerned, how were they going to get their hands on these on the release date? But it turned out great for everyone because anyone that wanted a pair, like I said, was pretty much able to get them. So now I'm going to shift this video over to comparing this 2023 version to my OGs from 2013. Yes, my pair is worn. It looks really pristine. I've probably worn it like 5 or 6 times over the years. But yes, I do have to say that this is a worn shoe. And just doing a quick comparison between the two, I didn't want to go super in depth for the purpose of keeping this video relatively watchable and not too long. But the first major difference that I noticed between the two was the color or shade of the suede that they used. So on the OGs, it's much more of a paler and cooler colored suede. Whereas for the 2023 version, it has much more of a yellowish tint to it, and there's a lot more color and character to it, whether you love it or you hate it. And in terms of the mesh used on the toe box and on the tongue, the 2023 version, the holes between the mesh are a little bit bigger, whereas for the OGs, it's a little bit more tightly wound together. The next obvious change is, of course, the shape of the midsole. And specifically for the 2023 version, the back of the midsole really juts out at this awkward angle, whereas for the OGs, it cuts off much flatter. Even on the heel of the shoe itself, it's much flatter in comparison, whereas the 2023's has a lot more curves to it. And then as you step back, you can see the entire shapes of the shoes are a little bit different. So we have the 2013 version, the OGs on the left, and you can see the heel of the shoe just sits a lot higher compared to the 2023 version, which is a little bit shorter and it has more of that curve on the back as well. And then when you look at the text on the midsole itself, with this Absorb branding, it's chunkier and not as defined on the 2023 version, whereas for the 2013s, the font specifically looks a lot finer and more sharp. And then on the forefoot area of the midsole where that blue stripe is, for the OGs is a lot longer in comparison to the retro version, where I'd say it's about 80% as long. Next up, you can see the color of the TPU panel used on the sides. It's a lot more like a true copper, which is closer to what actually is on the $100 bill, whereas for the newer version, it's more of a brownish shade as opposed to an actual copper shade. And then if you look at the tongues of the shoe, again, you'll notice the shade of the suede is different, like I mentioned. And then also the embroidery, specifically the Made in USA embroidery, it's a very dark gray on the OGs, and it's more of a silver gray on the retro. And the same can be said on the embroidery on the heel. At the very top, you can see the difference. It's much darker on the originals and more of a silver color on the retro. And in terms of the laces, so whereas the retros come with a white lace, that light gray lace, and an olive colored pair as well, for the OGs, they come with a white pair, a light gray pair, and a very unique copper colored lace, which was kind of a bummer that the retro version was missing. And then last but not least, another difference that I noticed between the two is this gray portion, the visible foam that you see on the bottom. It's again more sharp and more defined on the OGs, whereas the ridges and those circular nubs, they're definitely more blended in and not as defined. But other than that, I thought this was a pretty accurate retro. If you don't own a pair of the originals, this is a very worthy alternative. And even for someone like myself that owns the original, I was honestly really excited to add this to my collection because, like I said, the C notes are just that iconic, and it's just one of those shoes that I never thought New Balance would ever retro or bring back again. So that pretty much breaks down all I gotta say. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this Concepts and New Balance 998 C note? For anyone watching, did you also pick up a pair of these? Were you scared off by the high price point, or are you just not a fan of the 998? Let me know your thoughts down below and let me know what you guys have to say. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can follow me on Instagram at esco8, follow my Twitter or X account at sean.go spelled out, and visit my website at seango.ca. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one.